Fools will draw. Wise players will draw. Geniuses will also draw because only the chosen one will be able to win from this position. The immediate issue is that if we simply try to make space for this pawn to promote, now black can attack it, and after we try to promote it, there is going to be a fork with the knight, picking up the pawn like this and simply drawing the game. And if white tries to be smart and play knight to b4, defending the pawn and sacrificing the knight, black is not simply going to take. Instead, there is the very precise knight to c6, sacrificing the knight back, and if the knight is taken, the pawn is lost. And if the white king tries to join into the battle, now knight to a5 check forces the king to move. If the king goes this way, now there is again the brilliant knight to c6, and if the king goes this way, now the pawn is blocked, so black can afford to pick up the knight. The first very precise move that the chosen one has to find is king to a7, blocking his own pawn, but avoiding all of those shenanigans that black can pull. But of course the king can go to b5 and keep an eye on this pawn, and only now it's time for the brilliant shot knight b4, sacrificing the knight. If the king now takes, we have gained just enough time to reach b6 and prevent the knight from stopping the pawn. But black, being rated almost 500,000 elo, knows that he just has to wait around with his king, and there is going to be no easy way to make progress. But the chosen one now goes to b8, leaving the knight to hang because it cannot be touched, otherwise the king is now going to attack the knight. The knight cannot come here without being captured, so black has to try giving checks, knight to c6. Now of course the knight cannot be taken, or the pawn is lost, and the king has a choice between b7 and c7. But c7 would be a mistake, because now the black knight can capture our knight, and it seems like for a second we can push the pawn, but actually there is knight to d5 check, forcing the king to move, and now the knight lands on b6, so the king has to go to b7. So the knight dances around the king and goes back to give the only check available. The king can now go to c7 and force the knight to move to the center of the board. And now we have gained just enough time to come back with our king and prepare the push of the pawn. But black has one last trick up his sleeve, and with a grin he plays knight to c5. Of course the obvious move is to push a7, but the idea is that the knight can now reroute via d7 check to b6, and again it seems like it can simply stop the pawn. So the only winning move, yet again leaving this knight to hang, is king to b7. The only move that doesn't lose the knight is king to b5, but now we can finally sacrifice yet again the knight with a knight to d5. There is no way for this black knight to keep an eye on a8 and avoid being traded off, and if anything else happens, we simply take, and on the next move, we're going to be able to promote.